For this activity, we're going to need some string, a pair of scissors, a dropper with some water, some paints, scratch paper, and a couple different surfaces to work on. So let's get started. I decided I'm going to go with the rainbow. Roy G. Biv. We have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and some purple. The way that I space these out is so they're close to each other with a little bit of room in between. And you can play with the way you separate your colors so it's spaced out in the way that works for what you're going for. Now, after you put all of your colors down on your palette, you want to cut your string so that it will span across all of the colors and have a little room on each end for you to grab onto. Before you put your string into the paint, get a little dropper, fill it with water, and put about 6 drops of water on each glob of paint. Now, some paints have a little bit of a better viscosity than others. Pay attention to the kind of paint you're working with and add the water accordingly. You want it to be more movable but not necessarily runny. So now that my palette is ready, I'm going to grab my string and drop it into the paint. And then I'm going to wiggle it around a little bit to make sure that all sides of the string are covered in the paint and it's very saturated and ready to go. I'm going to start with some scratch paper first so I can get a feel for what this is going to look like. For this one, I'm going to just see what it's like when I drag it around. What does it look like when I swirl it? All right. This is the part where I'm just having fun. I don't really know what it's going to look like, so I'm just going to play with a few different methods. When I notice that the paint is kind of dry or I used everything on the string, I'll go ahead and drop it back in there, get it reloaded. Oh, this one's fun. I'm just kind of like smushing it around. And that's why it's nice to have pieces of scrap paper. It doesn't really matter what this looks like. We're just having fun with colors and experimenting, seeing what happens. Now that I have an idea for what this looks like, I decided I'm going to grab my canvas and I'm just going to do a couple of straight lines on the top and the bottom of this canvas with my rainbow string. I'm feeling pretty good about the way that looks, so I'm going to set this part aside and grab another piece of scratch paper. Now that I have an idea for what this activity is like, I'm going to be trying some different colors out. So I want to work with blues and a little bit of green this time and keep it monochromatic. Monochromatic is when it's the colors on the color wheel that are touching each other. So we're going to stick with blues, a little bit of green. I'm going to get another piece of scratch paper and another piece of string and have fun again. This time I don't really have any intention, just like the last time. I'm just going to see what happens when I drag this piece of string across the paper. I'm going to maybe add some blues to my rainbow one and make one that's totally just blue. So for this next part, I have this black piece of paper. Now, this used to be a drawing that I didn't really like the way it turned out, so I like to reuse all of my materials. What I decided to do, instead of throw it away, I painted some black over top, and now I'm gonna use some gold and white to see what kind of effects I can get on top of the black. Now, I know that a lot of us are staying inside and we're practicing social distancing, so a lot of stores might not be open, and we can just use whatever we have laying around. So, if you don't have any craft paint, maybe you have some extra house paint that you could use. If you don't seem to have a palette laying around, you could always use parchment paper or some paper plates, anything that it's a good time to get creative with reusing materials and seeing what you have laying around. I'm using 100% cotton string for this, which is what's recommended, but you can use thread, you can use yarn, you can experiment with a couple different varieties and get a sense for what you like best. So for this one, I'm going to see what happens when I use only two colors. Maybe I wanted to add the same two colors a few different times, switching the ways that I do my pattern. Really, the sky's the limit here. You can have fun and not take it too seriously. It's just about seeing what happens with the string and the paint and taking it from there. Well, I think that's it for me today. Here are some of the results of what we just created. Thanks for joining, and leave some comments below. I'd love to see what you made.